Good morning, all. This is Jack from Charting Markets Crypto, and this is the pre-market webinar for the morning of Wednesday, the 4th of February. My disclaimer, I do this for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts, and I'm not here to issue trading signals. This is a video for paying subscribers at ctmcrypto.substack.com, and it's published on YouTube after a delay of 3 days. All right, great. Let's have a look at Bitcoin. Sorry. Bit of a lower low yesterday. Went below my 74.4, but not unduly so. So we're basically in the same sort of level. We've now got a bit of positive divergence, but it's not an awful lot. Ideally, we've gone up a bit more, but we do have a possible weak RSI 14 buy signal brewing here. We've got a possible weak RSI 5 buy signal brewing here on the daily. So we've now got positive divergence. In terms of the 3SD lower band, that was considerably below this morning, but we were hitting it the other day. I am thinking we've got a good chance of a bounce here, and the scenario I'm running here is that if we are going to see some more months of equities holding up, which I'm thinking we might, then this would be a pretty good match with that, because ideally, one of the big things about 74.4 was that it was a potential head and shoulder neckline. I'm thinking we may form a right shoulder here. Ideal target would be at about the 109, 110 area. Takes 2 to 6 months to form, and I'm thinking we may do that. So I'm watching for positive divergence. We've got a bit here. I'd prefer a slightly larger, well, I'd prefer it to happen more slowly, to be honest, and set up positive divergence on the daily. But we have got some divergence on the daily. We've got hourly buy signal already fixed. Morning, Doug. Hourly buy signals already fixed, although I would note that we already had those before this latest decline. But we've got weak but decent positive divergence on the daily, and we've reached the target area. We've got a potential double bottom here, sustained break over 79.3k. Would have a target, it's not huge, but in about the 84 to 86k area, and potentially we've got a larger double bottom here. And if we saw a sustained break over 90, then that would have a target which would be up in about the 100, and what would that be? Hang on, wait a second. 26. That would be up in about the 120 area. Now that's higher than I'm expecting to go, but if we break up here, get over significantly over 100 and then fail, then that would fit perfectly. In terms of the overall head and shoulders, I'm not saying this would necessarily. I'm saying this may form. I'm not saying, and I'm thinking it may well break down. I'm not saying it would necessarily make target. But let's think about it for a minute. We're 74.4k. The target for this, if we were to see a breakdown, would be in approximately the 20k area. Now that's kind of low, because the bull market started, I think, from a low of 15,000. I wouldn't be thinking of getting that close, but in terms of the sort of high we may be looking at here on on equities, well, the economy's in the toilet. Equities have never been as overvalued as they are now, and we've got an obvious bubble happening with AI. Now, this is a recipe potentially for a very, very big drawdown on equities as and when a high is found. And in terms of that drawdown, I'm just thinking that potentially we could see, well, the thing is, when the dollar was falling and there was a degree of liquidation, what happened? Gold and silver went up a lot. Bitcoin dropped like a rock, and that's the problem here. In terms of ideally, what you would be looking at here would be a situation where Bitcoin was something which would go up when equities and the currency go down. But in truth, what we're looking at here is the opposite. When the dollar and equities go down, crypto goes down. It is not seen as an alternative to the dollar here, or equities. It is basically performing as an equity. So that being the case, what happens if equities starts tanking seriously when we see a significant bear market start? Well, chances are it'll go down a lot. And what I would say is, in this period here, we did not have a serious bear market happening in equities. We had a modest bear market, but if we start seeing something really grim happening in equities, well, it's hard to have a good outlook for what happens on crypto at the moment. So am I thinking this potentially could form and make the full target? Yes, I am. I'm not necessarily, but maybe. All right, Solana, we've made it down to the support area here. The Head and Shoulders has made target at the at the retest of 95.24. I would note that we've got another target below that in the 89 area, which would be the extension target, but I'm not seeing any obvious reason to think that would be made. As it is at the moment, we've got a possible RSI 14 buy signal brewing and a possible weak RSI 5 buy signal brewing on Solana, and the nicest positive divergence is on Solana. And also, the clearest bottoming setup, because this is a very nice looking little double bottom. It's actually not much nicer than the last one, which never broke up, but this one is on positive divergence, where we've actually made the full head and shoulder target now, and a sustained breakup over 106 would have a target, which would be at about the 116 to about 118 area. So that's actually pretty respectable, and that gets us up to within range of another couple of potential inverted head and shoulders, one here at 119 and another one up here at 128. So I'm thinking this could be the start of a very sizable rally, and it could be a rally with a daily RSI 14 buy signal, which is not something we see too often. And what's the history on them? Well, we've only had two, but on this chart, and both of those made targets. So, and we've got, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sell signals, and they all made target. I quite like the RSI 5 buy and sell signals. In terms of the RSI 14 buy signal, we've had one that made target. I could go back further and look for more examples, but they're decent signals. All right, looking at Ethereum. Ethereum isn't looking quite as nice. We have got down to the weekly lower band here. In terms of the daily chart, we've got down to this trend line here and slightly beyond. We've got a weak RSI 14 buy signal brewing, or a possible weak RSI 5 buy signal brewing. We didn't quite make it to the head and shoulder target. I've got that at 2070, and we've made it down to 2108. But close enough, and given that we are likely in a bear market, and therefore that the rally I'm talking about possibly happening here would be a counter trend rally, then I'm thinking we could see that rally and then come back and get that target. In terms of a double bottom here, we've got a decent looking little one here. We've got a resistance at 23.95. Sustained break up over that would have a target in the, hang on, wait a second, see, about the 25.10 to 25.40 area. So I'm liking it. It's nice. So I'm really liking the prospects for a bounce here, and I'm not seeing a strong setup for a high here on equities. So I'm thinking equities may well have another 2 to 6 months, in which case we could well see this play out in the meantime. All right, great. Do you want me to cover Bitcoin from the start again, Doug, or is that enough? No, all right, cool. In that case, I think that's a wrap. Everyone take care, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.